I've talked about this many times, but school choice has many proven benefits, whether it includes improved student outcomes, higher graduation rates, and greater overall satisfaction by parents. Hello. Welcome again to this week's economy. I'm your host, Dr. Vance Ginn. Thank you for joining me again today. Well, we've got a lot of stuff to talk about today, what's been happening this week and what's going to happen next week. And so I want to get right to it. So let's jump into it. All right. Number one, upcoming election concerns. In the news, as the economy struggles, economists are raising concerns about the economic plans of both presidential candidates. Issues such as tariffs, price controls, immigration policy, and proposed interventions in the Federal Reserve are drawing criticism. Voters heading to the polls need to understand how these policies could impact the nation's economic health. So my take on this is that we really need to recover from Bidenomics. We've got to go into a different direction. Americans are continuing to experience the shortcomings of the big government, basically socialism, that we've seen over the last 3.5 years. While many seek a new direction, both candidates' economic proposals do have flaws, and they're containing elements that will worsen the situation. For one thing, inflation is not caused by price controls or alleviated by price controls or targeted handouts or selective tax exemptions, tariffs, or presidential interference in the Federal Reserve. Really what that's about is reducing the Federal Reserve's balance sheet. That's where the inflation and distortions come throughout the economy. And that's going to be helped by reducing overspending by Congress. They're continuing to spend too much. And what I haven't heard enough from either of the major political candidates right now, presidential candidates, is anything to do with spending. Spending is the ultimate problem with government, not revenue or anything else. I have seen Chase Oliver from the Libertarian Party talk about overspending being the problem, but I doubt he has much of a way to winning the election. But maybe what he can do is try to hype up what Harris and Trump are saying to say, you know what, spending is the problem, and keep focusing on that as much as possible. If we can do that and have a pro-growth, pro-market, free market capitalistic sort of approach, we can have more economic prosperity for people across the country, which is really what they want and what they need to see for us to be a prosperous country. So let's get back to that. Number two, gasoline caps in California. In the news, California Governor Gavin Newsom recently signed a law tightening fuel refinery storage regulations, aiming to prevent gasoline shortages and price spikes. However, just days after the legislation was enacted, a major oil company announced plans to close one of its factories. My take is this is really a quantity control, not a price control. But anytime you control one side or the other of the market, remember those supply and demand charts that you used to write in your economics courses, where you have prices on the vertical axis and quantity on the horizontal axis. Then you had supply and demand, and where they intersect determines the market equilibrium price and the market equilibrium quantity. Well, there are a number of things that you can do to try to control what the market outcome is from a top-down approach, which is what the Biden administration is trying to do a lot, along with folks in California like Governor Gavin Newsom. And so instead of putting a price control in place, which he, I guess, understands that is costly, has a lot of negative connotations, and the public just don't like that as much anymore. Fortunately, I think that's a good thing. Now he's moving to quantity controls instead. But if you control the quantity, right, of how much can be in inventories, because the argument is that these gas refineries are having too much of gas sitting on the sidelines, but that's able to meet the demands whenever demand fluctuates over time more effectively by having that amount of inventory. That's the institutional knowledge within those sectors of the economy. And now the government is saying, you know what, that's not right. That's not right for y'all to have that much on the sidelines. And so we're going to come in and put quantity controls in place instead. And what that's likely to do, just like price controls, is eventually that will lead to higher prices or less output over time, because it's not based on market fundamentals of the prices. Instead, it's based on government dictate from the top. And this is another bad sort of situation that needs to go away as quickly as possible. Unfortunately, California is likely to keep it going and force and make people flee to other states. That's the simple fact of it. Number three, Nobel Prize in economics. In the news, the 2024 Nobel Prize in Economics has been awarded to Darren Acemoglu Simon Johnson, and James A. Robinson for their groundbreaking research on how institutions are formed and how they influence prosperity. Notably, all three economists are immigrants to the United States. Osamoglu hails from Turkey, while Johnson and Robinson come from the United Kingdom. So my take on this is that their research has been influential for many years on institutions. It builds on the work that Douglas North and others in the new institutional economics have come out with. Their big point within the Why Nations Fail, which is a great book, which I really have learned a lot from and used a lot of my research and teaching that I've done over the years, talked about extractive institutions like socialism, communism, those sort of things that take out of the economy to give to others and have a bigger government in the process versus inclusive institutions that are more like private property rights, democracies, republics, capitalism, the things that allow for people to have more economic opportunity and prosperity. That's really what their research was. And also talks about the importance of immigration and things of that nature, especially when you see that all three of them are immigrants, just like Elon Musk and others coming to the United States. One other reason why we need more immigration reform based on policies that are market driven, not other types of economic implications for what's going on and trying to stop people from coming over altogether. But that's not the path forward. And so these institutions come about really helps to set the stage. Now, with the recent efforts by Osamoglu to go after Elon Musk and Osamoglu and Robinson in their book, The Narrow Corridor, they have more big government ideas that just don't resonate with me. And I don't think that that's a good direction. They'll probably get more hits and media hits because of those types of actions. But I think they should go back to their research that won the Nobel Prize in the beginning, because that's really what helps bring about prosperity, are strong institutions that allow for people to prosper and have more freedom and liberty in the process. That's what we need to get back to. So congratulations to them for winning the Nobel Prize in economics, but let's make sure that we're careful and humble enough to know that we don't have all the answers, even as economists or really anyone, okay? And so let's go to the next one. Number 4, school choice. In the news, the upcoming election could significantly influence education policy in the United States. Many states are contemplating school choice legislation, with Colorado, Kansas, and Florida placing school choice measures on their ballots. Texas is also set to advance school choice legislation in the next legislative session that starts in January of 2025. I've talked about this many times, but school choice has many proven benefits, whether it includes improved student outcomes, higher graduation rates, and greater overall satisfaction by parents. Currently, more than 30 states have implemented school choice initiatives, with 12 states offering universal or near universal education savings accounts programs, which is really the direction that we need to be going. What Milton Friedman really had in mind, besides the vouchers is what some people call it, is really giving more freedom to people to do what they want to do to meet the unique needs of each one of the kids. That allows for quality education and even better public schools. And by the way, some of my research has shown that if some teachers could experience salary increases of up to $28,000, a $14,000 increase is what I find on average, but some could get much more than that, reflecting the value of their profession, which is really what we need instead of the top-down monopsony sort of situation for teaching services today, because they're mostly consumed by the government monopoly school system, right? Instead, they could go out in the market and negotiate higher wages and have better outcomes for them and their families as well. So there's so many benefits of school choice. Let's get at it. Let's make sure that it's done. Number 5, dynamic pricing at grocery stores. In the news, Congress Rashida Tlaib has accused Kroger grocery stores of discriminatory pricing practices, alleging that the use of digital price tags and facial recognition software constitutes price gouging, particularly as the grocery stores prices reach an all-time high. Look, my take on this is that inflation has been raising prices across the board, and from the overspending and overprinting of money by Congress, overspending and overprinting by the Federal Reserve. So grocery stores are acting like other businesses to account for their cost of increased production, along with higher minimum wages and other sort of wage inflationary pressures as well. But really, this is still caused by the Federal Reserves and their inflated balance sheet. So when you look at technologies like dynamic pricing, similar to Uber's surge pricing, they're designed to respond to market demands and help ensure the availability of goods. So it's bringing us to the market-based 21st century economy compared to the old ways of doing things with one sticker price. Instead of targeting businesses like Rashida Tlaib and Lena Khan and Cantor over at DOJ and others, I mean, they're talking about all this nonsense of monopolies and anti-competitiveness, antitrust issues, when really we just need to let the markets work, okay? Government should get out of the way, give the Federal Reserve printing presses off, and stop overspending by Congress. We can get this inflation wiped up in a hurry, okay? Number 6, immigration in Texas. In the news, Texas sharing a border with Mexico serves as a primary entry point for many illegal immigrants and is home to about 1.6 million undocumented individuals, if not more. There's 11 to 12.5 million illegal immigrants across the United States. So there's some range that's in Texas. Despite significant resources aimed at preventing illegal immigration, the issue continues. Texas is experiencing labor shortages, particularly in specific industries such as construction, which tend to attract undocumented workers. Look, my take on this is that economic impacts of immigration have been positive for the vast majority of people that are coming here, not only for them, but especially for future generations of those that are coming here. All of us in some capacity have come here from other countries in America, right? To come to America and for a better life. And that's why many other people are coming here as well. We should not hinder that. At the same time, I do believe strongly in the rule of law. And so having that rule of law, we don't have an open borders sort of situation. We've got to have some way to allow them through legally, but that should be a market-based system. Had we had a market-based system in place already, that we wouldn't have the same issues that we have today to allow for employers to meet up with the workers that are needed. And oh, by the way, we should also not be hindering more economic growth and competition across America with higher taxes, higher minimum wages, higher regulations, and everything else, because that the result is that you have a more of an underground economy where people want to pay below the minimum wage, pay below those taxes and other things. And so that also creates a lot of demand for illegal immigration to come out as well. And as I recently stated in a study by the Tholos Foundation, I found that amnesty of illegal immigrants could cost Medicare about $2 trillion, especially Medicare for All under Kamala Harris's sort of plan for nationalized health care. And so these are all types of issues that we need to think about because nothing is free. There's always trade-offs that take place. That's really what I really want to highlight is there is a cost, even though I do believe that immigration is positive for us in the longer term and it's something we need more of, especially those higher skilled younger workers, right? But really across the board, we're also helping them benefit and prosper in the process from coming from places that are poor, more uncertainty, even economic strife. Those are things that we really need to look at. Number 7, Tax Cuts and Jobs Act and the expiration of it. In the news, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017 is set to expire next year unless Congress takes action. If allowed to expire, trillions in tax breaks would end for individuals, leading to higher tax bills for 62% of taxpayers. A key question then is how these tax cuts have impacted the federal deficit. My take on this is that the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, the Trump tax cuts, if you will, provided significant benefits to American taxpayers since its implementation. It reduced tax rates on individuals and businesses, helped to provide more incentive for businesses to start business here, be entrepreneurial, also help incentivize people to work. But I'm not a supply side economist who just says that tax cuts pay for themselves. I think you got to look at both sides of the coin. At the same time, I'm for tax cuts. I'm also for spending cuts. And that's the part that they keep getting wrong is they keep spending too much by Congress. And then that runs up deficits each time they've cut taxes, even though the tax cuts end up resulting in more taxes being collected over time because of the increased economic growth. That amount of growth in the revenue wasn't able to keep pace with the increases in spending. And that has run up what the deficit is over time. And in fact, corporate tax receipts have outperformed expectations by the Congressional Budget Office, coming in at $529 billion, exceeding the CBO's original $425 billion estimate after the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act passage. Additionally, we found Federal Reserve has said there's been contributions that have mainly been driven to the national debt from increased government spending. So I think that we should extend the Trump tax cuts. And in fact, we should be not only extend them and make them permanent, but make bigger reforms to them as well. Cut out a lot of the loopholes, SALT deductions, different things, and lower rates as much as possible, and also flatten the number of brackets. The Economic Policy Innovation, the EPIC group, which I put a link to in my show notes page, they also have a great research out recently highlighting the need for other types of reforms. That's the Economic Policy Innovation Center. That was lawmakers must preserve and expand the 2017 tax cuts. So be sure to check that out. So we've got a lot of good stuff in the news today. Thank you for joining me again today. Share this with your friends and family and share it on social media and tag me. I'll make sure to share it again as well. That'd be a great help. Remember, you can find a lot more insights at vanceginn.com or my show notes with all the links and everything else and past episodes at vanceginn.substack.com, or you can go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, find us wherever you can, but please share it. That will help me out so much. God bless you and let people prosper.